Okay, we're going to have a little lesson in anatomy before we start on the questions and on the hoof evaluations. Now, the hoof evaluations are good in that you're going to be re-going over the anatomy in every hoof evaluation. So I got this here for a reason. I did a dissection this week on one of Molly's front hooves, and I figured out how to get them hoof capsules off perfectly. I don't have her foot here because I had to freeze it. It was getting pretty rank. Because the way you get those hoof capsules off is you got to soak them 4 or 5 days to where they're almost rotten. Then you take, the hair will come right off. I'm going to just show you the capsule of the foot. If you take these capsules and you put them in water, they'll stay supple for a long time. This one I just soaked it in some Clorox. What you want to do is, if you soak these feet in a bucket, 5-gallon bucket of water for 3 or 4 days, all the hair will come off. Then you'll just have the skin, the second layer of skin. And then what it does is it separates this too, right here, the periopal, okay? And then all you got to do is take a scalpel and just barely cut right up here. And then the hoof capsule, as far as the hide and everything, is separated from the leg. Then what you do is you go and you wrap the leg. I took an old sheet and I wrapped the leg, and then I put the thing in a vise to where this part was sticking out like this. And then I started working this part, which is called the frog stay. This is, look where your central sulcus is here. This is why I say you have to clean out the central sulcus. You got to trim your frog so it stays healthy. What would happen if your skin never exfoliated? What happens when the sole never exfoliates? It dies, the dead skin will petrify, and the frog will quit growing. Not only that, has anybody ever had a really hard callus that cracked and then it would never heal? Well, that, this is skin. That is what happens to this as well. What I was really amazed at finding in her was the frog stay. How her frogs, when I trimmed out the heels, her frogs were decimated. What has happened with restoring the heel, what happened was it restored the frog stay. Now, when you test for the digital cushion, they have you come up here and go like this. Here, I'll use my plaster hoof. Okay, they have you come up and go like this, right, to test for the digital cushion. But I'm telling you right now, that's all a bunch of baloney. What it is, a good foot, what happens is this frog stay grows up between the bulbs up here, and it pushes the digital cushion up under here where it belongs. And so when people come in and they test this and they think they have a good digital cushion, what they're really feeling is a good frog stay. See, look at that thing. Isn't that beautiful? And that just fits right up there between the bulbs. And look at that. Look how it moves. When the foot moves, like that has to give that horse has to feel that ground through that. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Once I do the screen share, okay, I'm going to show you the foot that this came out of, and I'm going to show you how this just fits up and separates the bulbs, and how ultimately what we're doing here. These frogs, what happens when you trim the heels out is all this pulls down like this, and the frog gets pulled under and forward under the foot, and the frog stay here is destroyed. So what we're doing is, as we restore heels, is all of this is coming back up to where your horse is not walking on his bulbs. That's another thing that happens. When you trim the heels out, this periopal stretches clear down here, takes the place of the heel. Look, the cartilage is sitting in here in your foot. So you trim these heels out, and the hoof capsule is pulled down like this, but the foot always wants to be up like this. Do you understand that concept? I think I talked about it last time. So the inner back of the foot and the cartilage is always pulling up. Even though you've trimmed the heel down to here, look at this periopal skin. Look how thick it is and hardy because, see, it's not stretched. When you trim the heels out here, the cartilage of the foot wants to be up like this. Since this periopal is attached to the leg and to the cartilage and to the inner foot, as the inner foot pulls back up like this, the periopal here stretches like that. So what we're doing here is we're totally restoring the placement of the frog. This is the ultimate goal of restoring the heel, is that you have to restore the correct placement of the frog on the foot. Then you're going to have a gravel cruncher. And not until then. I'm going to try and show you some pictures of this frog stay. Some pictures where you'll see it. See, now if I was to cut this foot in half, right down the center, and then look at a side view, I'd see this big, huge frog stay, right? I'm going to show you feet where you'll see the frog stay is very big, supporting the digital cushion, separating the bulbs. I like to think, remember the Playtex bra commercials? Lifts and separates. That's your frog stay right there. It lifts and separates. See, on her, it still was not quite in the right place, but she was very comfortable when she passed on. There's some other stuff I wanted to show you about this hoof capsule, but I don't know if you can see it. I might have to use pictures. What I wanted to show you was how the sole is little. You can see the sole ridge, the inner side of the sole ridge in here, where it goes up like that. And you can see the horn tubule, or the sole tubules. Pretty cool. Barb wanted to know about the periopal and what happens to the back of the foot when you're restoring these heels, because sometimes it seems like they're stuck here and you have a bulb sticking out here. And that is usually because they are stuck there. Because see, as I said, this foot wants to come back up this way, but you have trimmed the heels out. Now, this horse here, I was in the process of trimming his heels out. Can you see that? How the wall is going that? Now, I want to show you something real interesting. See, the best thing I ever did was take a plaster cast of this foot, because then years later, I am still learning from this. Look here. I want you to see something here. How trimming the heels out has pulled, literally pulled the periopal and everything off of the heel of the inner foot. I mean, can you see it? Here's the heel. You see the heel there? Right there? This hoof capsule is supposed to be up on it like this. See this right here? This is supposed to be covering that right there. What's our foundation that we start with? But I got a heel. Here's your cartilage right here. Here's the back of the heel of the foot. This periopal right here should be slipped up over here. And what's happened is, this is just like when you trim the heels out, you are literally pulling the capsule off the foot in the back. See that little nubbin right there? Okay, this part of the capsule right here where the periopal skin is, that should be up here. What you're doing is all of this has to come back and get back on the foot. When you trim the heels out, you're trimming the capsule off of the foot. Because remember, hairline is not supposed to go like that, is it? This hairline should be like that. If the hairline was like that, do you see how the periopal skin right here would cover this up right there? So what was stretched here, there's hide and hair right here, which was attached to here. So you wouldn't notice it because it will stretch that hide over it like that. Now, this is one way that it does this. Other times, this won't necessarily always come disconnected from the heel of the foot right here. A lot of times, it'll just pull this foot right down with it. So there's different manifestations that trimming the heels takes on. Now what can happen is, and I'll show you on an internal foot, I'm going to show you the corium for the heel buttress, which is right here. Here's your coronary band right here. Here it is. Okay, now the heel ends right there, but your coronary band, it keeps going back to here, right? Now this, again, this is a distorted, deformed foot. This should not be pulled down like that. This should be straight out like this. So the coronary band goes around like this, but right here, it changes. Your coronary band here is not up here. It's not up here at the top right here. Okay, that's periopal right there. The coronary band changes, and right here, it goes right under here, and it gets flat. It's flat. It's no longer a half round circle or a band. You see that? It comes right under here and it gets flat. All right. And that is where your heel buttress grows from. It's a triangular piece of pillar that must grow from that heel like this and support that heel. And what it does is then it lifts. See this? It lifts and pushes that up. So a lot of times when you're growing your heels, you think you're not having any progress, but what's happening is that hoof wall has to push this whole thing up again. And that takes quite a bit of time sometimes. So don't get discouraged. You will think your heels aren't growing, but they are. But the growth is going up this way. Thing goes flat right here, and then it's flat under here. You got your corium for the bar that grows the bar wall right there. Again, it's a half circle, a band shape all the way to here. Here it changes, goes under this little edge of the foot, back of the foot here, and it goes flat, and that heel buttress wall grows from this flat spot right here, and that's what'll push and support this whole back of the foot up like that. This horse here, he'd have had to have at least 2 inches grow so that it could fix this and push this whole foot back up this way. Now, as it's doing that, what else is going on? It's pulling the whole frog back and restoring the frog stay, restoring the frog stay up in between the bulbs, and it's going to change and support the whole back of this foot. Here's what happens, and this is what we're all going to have to experiment with in restoring these feet. A lot of times when this hoof wall here and the periopal gets pulled off of the heel back here and pulled under, I'm going to show you here with the sock. Here's what's happened. Now remember I told you that if anything on this foot, if one part grows over another part, that part will quit growing. Like if the bar grows up here and lays over the sole, which is right here. See, your sole is right in here. If this bar grows up over this sole will choke out and quit growing. It's just like grass. If you cover it up, it's going to quit growing. Well, the same thing on the coronary band here, where the heel buttress grows from, gets all bent under and pushed up to the corner of the foot here, or the periopal skin slips up over it like this. You had a bar that went all the way back to here. See there? Okay, the bar connects to the heel buttress right here. And so you had a long bar that went about to here. That would be the original horse's foot right there. But when this happens, okay, and this all gets covered up slowly and the heel buttress gets trimmed out, then you have a false bar. The bar gets shorter, and the more heel buttress that gets trimmed out, see, your bar only goes to here. The more heel buttress gets trimmed out and the more all this is pulled forward, the less to no bar you have. And what you wind up having is you wind up having a fake heel. Well, look here. We'll look at it this side. Okay, now this foot still, no thanks to me, had some heel buttress here. Right there. But as it gets trimmed out, and as this periopal and all the cartilage is bent under, and it doesn't always do that. Sometimes it just really stretches the periopal and dumps the heels out the back. Different distortion forms this takes on. So as this periopal stretches, you see how my bar would get shorter there? All of this hoof wall here can be trimmed out of the foot, clear up to where the coffin bone starts. See, here's your periopal. As you are trimming these heels, this wall here is being trimmed out and moving forward like this to where finally you have a foot that's about that size. This periopal will stretch to cover the bulbs in the back. And look at here. If I trim out this much, where's my bar at? Right here. I only have a little teeny bit of bar, and this will all come together to form a false heel. So what we're trying to do, and I don't understand all of it yet. Sorry. I can't tell you all the answers. I don't know I don't know yet if we should always just release the periopal exactly or what to do there. But I do know that we have got to get all this back up and to grow back up and to replace the growth in the wall here so that the wall will grow and come back and the foot will reinsert itself in the hoof capsule. You have to have a healthy frog, period. And the only way to get a healthy frog is to grow heel and to trim that frog. You have to continually restore the apex of the frog, because when the frog grows, what happens when the frog grows up and then the horse walks on it? What happens to the apex here? It goes forward and it gets smashed onto the sole. See, and it will bend all these sole tubules right here and push them forward. You have the apex of the frog, like right here, you see it? This horse was needing to trim. Here's the apex of the frog. Here's the true apex of the frog. This is frog padding that has overgrown and laid over the sole right here. As this whole foot and frog is being pulled back up like this, that apex is going to shift. It's going to move. And so you have to keep track of it, because otherwise, your toe wall is going to get too long. Do you understand that? That's what we do. That's why we do this. Okay, now anatomical mapping is just a method of teaching you to find the internal parts of the foot and to get a general location and set boundaries for all the parts. I would come in here and I would, okay, right there would be my true apex. I would measure. Now I'm going to show you something. On the other foot, he had a little bit of separation right in here. So I could have brought that toe back a little bit. Okay, but again, this was a horse I was trimming the heels out of. It's a distorted foot. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We are restoring. Look at this frog. The whole thing is pulled forward, forced forward. This whole thing is going to come back, and the frog stay is going to be renewed, and this hoof capsule is going to be pushed and slip back up onto the foot. That's what we want. And that's going to increase the length of the foot from here to here. This is restoration. And this is what we are trying to do. Anyway, I did a good job on Molly, because look at that frog. You got periopal skin from here to here, and from here to here is frog. I think that looks pretty good. And I'll tell you what, this frog stay and, you know, her internal foot, what was going on with the bulbs was awesome. I could tell where the heels had been crushed and pushed forward from the whole time I had been trimming the heels out. And yet she still had some good heel in here. Those heels can bend and crush and go forward as you're trimming this hoof wall out of the foot. Now, next week, I think I'll go into, I'll show you the pictures of all the measurements that I took of these heels. See, where's 1 inch and 1/8? Right there. That's 1 inch and 1/8. If you go in here, okay, see how could you do that? How could you trim the heel out like that? I don't even understand how these feet do it. It must be because it's gradual or something. Because it just surprises me that when we did it, we're not just rasping right into the corium of the inner foot. Because even right here where the heel fits, right here, up to the periopal, the top of the hairline, is 1.5 inches. So how is it that we can trim this at 1 inch and 1/8 and get away with it? I just don't know. It's so deceptive and so subtle. Okay, well, I'm going to put this thing back in water. We're kind of learning this together. There's been opportunities on my Gilding's feet that I missed, that I didn't trim at the right time, and his heels ran forward more than they should have. Okay, I'm going to answer this question to Barb Miracle here, the statement. She said, Linda, I have been reading that the hooves respond to extra wear and extra growth. And when the wear stops, the growth slows. Okay, I'll tell you about this. This time, the first wild horse adoption they're having over here in Girard, Kansas. I went over there. I'm telling you, I hated it because I frankly don't like Kansas. I'm from Wyoming, wide open spaces, and I've always felt like I was trapped here. And so I knew just how them horses felt when I was in there, you know. But anyway, I was talking to this BLM guy, and he said that when they first run them horses in, their feet grow like crazy. And so they wait about 6 months and they wait for the growth to slow down. And then they have these guys come out and they have chutes and they flip these horses over and they trim their feet. That is true. The more they wear, the more they grow. I do believe that. Okay. Now we're going to do hoof evaluations.